If you've ever eaten Cup Noodle ramen, watched any of the Godfather trilogy, or drank Ketel One vodka, you have firsthand experience with the work of one of the most badass type designers of the 19th century. His name is Herman Ihlenburg. He created typefaces in Philadelphia for the MacKellar, Smiths and Jordan type foundry, only 5 minutes away from where we were originally supposed to have TypeCon. Pooling the deep typographic resources from several different libraries, including the Cary Graphic Arts Collection in Rochester, New York, and Philly's own Athenaeum Library, my ongoing Project Ihlen aims to revive and educate people about these exotic typefaces that are so fantastic. This presentation will feature tales from sneaking into spooky graveyards in search of epitaphs, paging through tomes in rare book libraries, and even printing my own specimens of rare vintage Victorian type. The obsessive research has yielded several Ihlenburg typefaces, which may not be complete, but they will be presented to you for analysis. From serif to counter, the revived typefaces are a case study to examine the trials and tribulations of translating vintage 19th century type into the modern digital age. The spirit of Herman Ihlenburg lives on in the city of brotherly love. Hi everyone, my name's Noah Bryant. Thank you so much for attending my presentation today. And I'm here to tell you about Project Ihlen. So originally, Project Ihlen came about because I was in my final semesters at RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology, and I decided to basically learn the basics of type design. And, originally my professors said that may be a little bit of a difficult task to do in just two semesters. But I decided, I might not be able to have a full typeface, but I wanted to really delve into typography and learn more about type design and really gain a massive appreciation for type design and how it works. So that was initially how the idea started. And really, what drew me to Ihlenburg is I went into the library and I was researching different type designers, and Herman Ihlenburg stuck out to me just because I already knew his type. I had seen it in different advertisements and different products all over the place, and I was instantly drawn to it. Herman Ihlenburg has such a unique style that would be best noted as Victorian exoticism. He really drew from a lot of interesting, exotic motifs. He combined that with motifs from nature, and he used it to really form something that was an incredible combination of all of these things. Initially I was drawn to his artistry, I was drawn to his type, and then I found out that he created type in Philadelphia. And I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I love the city. I'm really tied to Philly, and I just instantly wanted to learn more. I instantly wanted to know more about who Herman Ihlenburg was. So I really delved into the books. I found out, that he used to make type for this foundry called MacKellar, Smiths and Jordan. And I said, let's go to the city and let's do some research. Let's find out, where he used to make type. Let's see if I can find out any information about who he was as a person. And really, the project just went from there. After the initial academic research portion, when I decided to go back to Philadelphia in order to start my research, first I tried to actually find the MacKellar, Smiths and Jordan building itself, where Ihlenburg, used to create all of this type. So utilizing my research, I found the address actually in Philly of the type foundry. So I went to that address. It's 606 Sampson Street. You can actually look that up on Google Maps right now if you'd like. It is a real address. And I went there, and unfortunately I found that the building was a bit different than what I found in my research. So I walked into the lobby and I asked the lovely people at the front desk, hey, I'm doing this typographic research. Could you tell me a little bit about the history of the building? And they let me know that it actually was torn down at one point. So the building was no longer original. So I honestly was a little bit disappointed. And I was looking for another lead. And, the lovely staff there, they said, hey, the oldest free library in the city is a block away. Why don't you go there, try and look, see if you could find any research there, which was a fantastic suggestion. So I walked down the street to the Athenaeum Library, which is, again, the oldest free library in the city of Philly. And when I went there, I met with the curator, who was extremely helpful, and he led me up to the collection that they had. And the most fantastic thing that I found there were these things called the Blue Books, and they're address books from, the 19th century. And in these address books were, again, they were basically the yellow pages of the 1900s. So everyone's address was listed, so you could go look up, hey, I need to find a carpenter, so I'm going to go look that up in the address books. And what was so great about it was in the address books were period advertisements of that time. And you wouldn't believe it, but in the advertisements were Herman Ihlenburg typefaces. So I was able to actually hold the initial, the original advertisements that Herman Ihlenburg's type was utilized in. And it was just so fascinating to see. Again, I'll post some pictures up next to me to just see how those typefaces were originally used. They were used by banks. They were used by big companies. It was cutting edge technology back in the day. It was fascinating to see how they were utilized in their original function. I basically was able to get a bunch of these specimens and be able to use this information to inform me about how can I utilize these typefaces in the future. Here's how they were once used, and here's how I can bring them into modern digital design. So, after I researched at the library, one of the things I found, of course, in the address book was Herman Ihlenburg's address. So from there, I went, it would be really cool to go to his address and just see what's there. So I actually managed to go to Herman Ihlenburg's house. I did take some pictures. It looks like it, was occupied at the time, so I didn't want to cause any problems. But I did manage to go and basically find his house and see where he once lived. That was an original building. That was an original, building in the city of Philadelphia. So that was fascinating to find. And then from there, I also did some more research in the library, and I found the location of his resting place, of his grave in West Laurel Hill Cemetery, which was, about a 10-minute drive from his house. So that's where I went next on the journey. I actually went through the cemetery. I talked with a bunch of the staff there. They helped me find the grave. And I was able to, take a grave rubbing, get some information about it. I found out that the grave was being actively preserved, which was fantastic. So, someone is taking care of it. Someone's preserving his legacy. So it was awesome to go through all of that information and basically, guide myself on this own little typographic odyssey where I learned more about Herman Ihlenburg and his life, and was able to, basically utilize all of this information in order to pour that into the typefaces that, I started to work on. After going on my typographic odyssey, the next step of my journey was to really go back to RIT and learn the basics of type design and to learn how to translate these incredible typefaces that I learned so much about into the digital age. And so basically that was done through, first of all, a lot of research. I read a lot of different books and I learned the basics of how to translate type into a digital format. And I ran through a bunch of different, trials throughout this process. In terms of specifics, things like ink bleed were a really big issue. So for one of the typefaces, originally called Spiral, which I renamed to Eldritch, ink bleed was a huge thing because that typeface was actually generated from original lead type found in the Cary collection at RIT that I took a specimen of. And when I was redrawing them physically and in FontLab 7, which is the program I used, I was finding that it was really difficult to actually try and account for that ink bleed. It made the letters look too thick. It made the stems look too thick. It's such an intricate typeface that it wasn't translating correctly. So it came down to me redrawing it. It came down to me, basically figuring out, how do I recreate the typeface while remaining true to the spirit of what Herman Ihlenburg wanted to create with the type. So really, that was one of the issues that I dealt with throughout the project. In terms of the other typeface that ended up, being created from this project. Originally, it was called Japanesque. It was renamed by me to Zeitgeist, and Zeitgeist was actually created from original print specimens. So I did not have the lead type for that. But it was basically created from those print specimens, and again, there were certain issues with that approach too, that I found. With that approach, a lot of times when I was redrawing them, I found that some of the letters, just didn't look right when I was putting them in digital designs. So I had to redesign some of them, and again, it was all finding that balance between how do I recreate this in something that I believe as an artist looks great, but still remains true to the original soul of what Herman Ihlenburg created and pays homage to him and his work. So those are some of the things that came into effect when I was working on the project. And really, again, I'm happy to present these typefaces to all of you. And they're not finished. They're still in progress. This is a living, breathing project. I am working on restoring and then digitizing another lead typeface as we speak in another library. This is a living project. So again, I'll provide links to my beta releases of these typefaces. They are not finished yet, but it will allow, again, it allows to just see my process, see where I was coming from, and hopefully, you would be able to utilize some of these typefaces in your designs and be able to utilize these across multiple projects. The next portion of the project and the final portion of the project really came down to me learning how to utilize these typefaces in modern digital design. So besides my work in type, besides my work as a designer, a videographer, and an artist, my primary career is in digital marketing. So my question then became, how do I push these typefaces into a marketing strategy? How can I basically make these typefaces valid in modern design? How can I push forward an idea to make other people believe that these are incredible typefaces, that you need to appreciate them? And so that came up with the next portion of the project, which, being in the Finger Lakes, I came up with this idea to basically produce a custom run of wine. And it kind of was a crazy element to the project, but we basically released about 200 different bottles that were based on both Ihlenburg typefaces that I produced, and the wine was called Ihlen. So again, it was received very well by people that I was able to give it to, and the wine itself did turn out pretty good. I got good feedback on it, but it really was a part of me saying, how do I market these typefaces, and how do I prove to myself that they're not just something that was used in the 19th century by a bank. It's not just that. It's something that continues to permeate modern digital design. It continues. We see it everywhere around us, and I just wanted to show that even these typefaces that you may think are too eclectic or too exotic or too Victorian can still be used in modern product design, can still be used in modern digital marketing. And so this was kind of the final homage to Herman Ihlenburg. And then, as you'll see on the label, I actually utilized one of his original sketches of this beautiful bird taking flight. And that was used just to kind of, again, pay homage to him and show really the world that this is not just a dying typeface. This is the future. This is the future of design. We're learning from the past and we're using it to be informed about the future and to create incredible things in the future. And that's really what Project Ihlen is all about, is learning from the past, paying homage to this great artist, and utilizing his work to create incredible things in the future. So yes, thank you so much for attending my presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen. And as stated, I will provide links to not only the typefaces for you to check out and use in your own designs, but also to a digital book that I wrote that, again, explains more about the process of the type design portion itself if you're interested, and also more about my typographic journey throughout this project. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please enjoy the rest of TypeCon. I hope to see all of you in person someday soon. Thank you so much.